Here's a quick tutorial on using probably the most valuable tool available to the common man who's trying to understand God's Word. First and foremost is prayer, praying to the Father for understanding of His Word, and asking in faith before you begin each day, as the book of James states in chapter 1, verses 5 and 6. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. And after you have prayed, if it is the Lord's will, you can acquire a Bible concordance that contains dictionaries of the ancient Hebrew and Aramaic definitions of the words in the Old Testament, as well as the Greek words in the New Testament. The Strong's was published in 1890, and Dr. Strong's died in 1894, so obviously long before any modern translations of the Bible were published. So you'll have to get yourself a good old King James in order to use the Strong's. Every word of the King James Bible is indexed in the Strong's Concordance. And a great word to use in order to learn how to use your Strong's is the word beguiled. Let's look up the word beguiled. You can see here that Eve used the word in Genesis 3:13. The serpent beguiled me. We commonly understand the word to mean deceived, but further investigation into the ancient Hebrew and Greek definitions of the word tell another story. For example, in the Hebrew, we can compare the definitions of the word beguiled as used by Eve in Genesis 3:13 when she says the serpent beguiled me, with the definition of the word beguiled used by Jacob in Genesis 29:25 when Jacob asked Laban concerning his wife Rachel, "Wherefore hast thou beguiled me?" We've been blessed with a third example of the same word used in the Greek by Paul in the New Testament concerning the serpent and Eve. In 2 Corinthians 11:3, when Paul says it as the serpent beguiled Eve. You can see here in the Strong's that it's easy to find any verse if you can remember just a word or two from it. Then you can find where it is in the Bible, as well as finding the definition by using the numbering system for looking up the word. You can see that there's two different numbers for the same word in the Old Testament. There's actually three different numbers, but we're concerned with these two. The dictionary for all the Hebrew words is in the back of your Strong's, just before the dictionary for all the Greek words. The Hebrew and Aramaic words are all in the Old Testament, and the New Testament is all Greek words. So we'll first look up the word beguiled as used by Jacob concerning Rachel. And the Hebrew word is 7411. 7411 in Hebrew, Ramah, a prime root. And it means pretty much what you would think beguiled means: to betray, deceive. But we can see with this great example how valuable the Strong's is when we look up the word as used by Eve in Genesis 3:13, speaking to God about the serpent. The serpent beguiled me. Word number 5377 in the Hebrew. Now here, word number 5377, as Eve used it, it's also a prime root. To seduce is a whole lot different than being deceived. But the great blessing that we've been given is that the word was used also by Paul in the same context between Eve and Satan. And we're going to look that up in the Greek. So turning in our King James Bible, the 2 Corinthians 11:3, we can find the word. And in the back of your Strong's Concordance, in the Greek portion of the dictionary, word number 1818. And here's Greek number 1818, exopateo, to seduce wholly. So, with the help of our Father through prayer and using a Strong's Concordance, we can now understand why Cain's genealogy, given in Genesis 4, is completely separate from Adam's, given in Genesis 5. And it also makes sense of many other things the Lord said, such as Matthew 23, verses 32 through 35. Fill ye up the measures of your father, ye serpents, ye generation of vipers. How can you escape the damnation of hell? Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, and some of them ye shall scourge in your synagogues, and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come the righteous blood shed upon the earth, from the blood of righteous Abel, which Cain killed, unto the blood of Zacharias, son of Barchias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. Another great word to look up in your Strong's Concordance is generation, as used by the Lord in in Matthew 23, verse 33, as compared to other times he used the word generations. Here we can see where the Lord used the word generation in Matthew 23:33, and it's a different number than when he used the word in Matthew 17:17. So we can look up the number 1081 in the Strong's Concordance, and then 1074. Here's the word in the Greek used by Jesus. From 1080, the word means offspring. So they're offspring of serpents. Now we can go, since right here, here's 1080. Here's the word Gehenna, to procreate of the Father. So they're literally offspring of serpents. And who was the serpent that beguiled Eve? And here's the word as it was used by Jesus in Matthew 17:17. And the word means an age, generation, an age, a period, different than offspring. Now, with the help of our Father, the King James Bible, and the Strong's Concordance, we understand the word generation as used in the Bible has two entirely different definitions, and we can clearly understand other verses, like John chapter 8, verses 42 through 44. Jesus said unto them, If God were your Father, this is him speaking to the scribes and Pharisees. Jesus said unto them, If God were your Father, you would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not understand my speech? Even because you cannot hear my word. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning. Who was the first murderer? Cain. And abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And with this wonderful tool, the Strong's Concordance, we can look up words that we never hear in our daily lives, like the word proselyte that Jesus used when he said, Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye compass sea and land to make one proselyte. And when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. Here we can see the word proselyte as used by Jesus in Matthew 23:15 is Greek number 4339. Greek word number 4339, proselyte, an arriver from a foreign region, and a seer, a convert to Judaism. So they're foreign converts to Judaism. They're not real Jews, these scribes and Pharisees. And now that we know what the word proselyte means in Matthew 23:15, it makes things like Revelation chapter 2 verse 8 a lot more understandable. When you see when the Lord speaks to the church in Smyrna, write these things, saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. And also in Revelation chapter 3, verse 9 as well, when Jesus is speaking to the other church that he finds no fault in, which, by the way, these are the only two churches that he finds no fault in. So picking it up at verse 7, and to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write these things, saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews, and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. When you were a child learning English, you were taught to use a dictionary first. So how could you possibly understand ancient languages you don't even speak without the help of a dictionary? So pray for understanding, get yourself a King James Bible and a Strong's Concordance, and you will be amazed at what God's Word truly says.